1 hour down, one more to go here. The Vegas Take, 101.5 FM, 720 AM KDWN here in Las Vegas. I'm Chris Wynn, in for Brian Shapiro as well as JD. We've been talking a lot about the press briefing today as Sarah Huckabee Sanders made an appearance. First time in 6 weeks that we saw a press briefing from Washington, D.C., as we got some information about what the Trump administration has been up to here in the past week or so, a couple weeks, the weekend as well, where President Trump had an opportunity to go down south. He was in Alabama speaking with families and victims of the horrific tragedy, the tornado down there, and it had an opportunity to spend some time with folks down there. And, hey, you have to applaud President Trump. That was the right thing to do. It was great to see the president down there and spending some time and showing a sympathetic side. It was a little weird, though. You got to admit that he was signing Bibles. I don't know what that was all about. I've never – look, Pat was talking about my age. I was born in 1970, so we can pretty much gauge it from there, late 40s. I don't remember any public officials, any public servants, anybody, even celebrities, signing Bibles. Right, that was strange to me. Johnny, have you ever heard about any either celebrities or heads of state?
Absolutely
when they
not.
go to disaster areas and these types of signing Bibles?
Not at all. Not even it was
weird.
Celebrity preachers that you see nowadays.
Yes, even any of these televangelists or anything. I've never heard of that type of thing taking place. Now, look, he's been getting killed on it. On social media, they've been using words like gross and inappropriate that Donald Trump, given his history that we all know about, that document is something that he would sign. It was strange. So, that wasn't exactly that was a little bit strange. But it was a good thing to see the president down there and being able to console and spend some time with the families down there. Also, a story came out over the weekend, of course, because he was at Mar-a-Lago. And we always get some of these weird stories, too, with President Trump, given in the associations that he had in his past. Of course, Robert Kraft, the owner of the Patriots, is charged with soliciting sexual acts in a massage parlor. Well, there's a connection now that I have to admit, it gave me a chuckle over the weekend. Not trying to demean the issue of human trafficking or that road. But look, when you see President Trump in that selfie with Cindy Yang, who is a woman who is down in South Florida. She was created and operated a business that sold Chinese business executives across access, allegedly, to President Trump and his family at Mar-a-Lago. She also founded a Miami-based nonprofit that promotes economic and cultural exchange between China and the West in coordination with senior Chinese leaders in the United States. According to a profile of Yang posted on a Chinese social media platform. She was also apparently the founder of those massage parlors down there in Florida. And so now she's the subject of criticism and ridicule as to whether or not she knew about or has any tie or was involved with and knew about the practices that took place in those massage parlors. Being here in Las Vegas, I think a lot of us understand what goes on in some of these places. We're not idiots, okay? We're not blind. We don't stick our head in the sand. We know what goes on in a lot of those places. And so for a lot of people, this was not a surprise that Robert Kraft and this sting went down and who was involved. But look, at the end of the day, it's not really a huge story. I don't think that she was taking a picture with him, that she's been in functions, that Yang, there's a photo of her in 2016 at the Republican National Convention. That's not a story. I think what people are focusing on, and those on the left are going to focus on, is the possibility that she sold Chinese business executives access to President Trump. Now, we understand, right? The president's the kind of guy who kind of flies free and loose here, right? He goes down to Mar-a-Lago, and there's people that, for any other presidency, they would not have this type of access because the president comes from a real estate background. He comes from a background where he owns places like Mar-a-Lago where people pay to be members there, and therefore they do have access. And it happens to be that he is the president of the United States, and he is not discontinued going down to Mar-a-Lago. In fact, that's one of his go-to spots, right? It's his Camp David down there. It's one of those places that he goes. And so, obviously, there are certain security things that have been put in place, and they take steps to make sure that the president is protected. But there are still the fat cats down there, right? There's still the people that are members that have unprecedented access to the leader of the free world, to the commander-in-chief, right? And so that's something that's unique that I can't remember. Look, I go back to my memory of the presidency goes back to President Carter. That's as far as it goes. I don't remember Gerald Ford. I don't remember Richard Nixon, but I do remember Jimmy Carter. So it goes back that far. I don't remember any other president that has a type of setup like this where you can go down to your place of relaxation, call it what you want, White House South. I remember Richard Nixon did have a house in California, but it wasn't like, you had members rolling through there in and out on a daily basis. So, it's a very unique situation is basically what I'm saying. So let's jump on the phone lines here real quick. We have 2 phone calls here. We got JD join us. JD, I appreciate the phone call. How are you?
Doing great, partner. Reagan had his ranch up in Palisades Park.
Yes. Yeah. But you understand what I'm saying, right, JD?
Yes,
it's not really like how Trump has it where
not really important.
Yes.
I'll get to the pardons if I may. You mentioned before the break about fake news never being around before the last couple of 3 years. Well, we had Walter Cronkite, we had Huntley and Brinkley, we had Tom Brokaw. We don't have guys like Acosta filibustering and trying to get 15 minutes of fame like the news media seems to be wanting to do anymore.
Well, you could argue they are, though. You could argue. Look, it's not just Jim Acosta. There's reporters on all the networks. That's why they're on TV. They love being on TV, JD. It's
Chris,
part of the gig.
Take a break, Chris.
Okay.
Get some air. Jesus, you'd be a great politician. You could filibuster.
Right.
First of all, NBC is notorious for staging car crashes with Ford that didn't exist, cutting off Trayvon Martin in the middle of a sentence, never apologizing other than say they had a mechanical problem. You had Brian Williams being attacked in a helicopter when he was in a foreign country, bombs coming at him and missiles and everything else. I could go on and on and on just with NBC alone with all the travails they have done. CNN not apologizing, not reporting on the Covington kids other than the first 30 seconds, not watching a 2-hour video, and they're going to be sued big time. But
yeah, they're already. Did you see last night? Mark Levin was, of course, on his TV show, and he had Linwood on there.
One last thing on NBC. Just recently, the gal is reporting about the guy from Fox that was on the communications team. I can't remember his name. Bill Fine or Sign or whatever.
Bill Shine. Yes.
Shine is leaving. Bill Shine is leaving the communication department for Trump, the 6th guy to do so, and that was the end of her story. What omission she left was not saying that he is going to be involved in the reelection and working on the Trump campaign for reelection. That was omitted from the story. That's what they do by omission. That is worse than what they report. They only have 30 minutes minus the commercials, probably about 21 minutes, and they show cockamamie stories instead of doing hard news, and they don't report all of the things that are in that you see on YouTube, what's going on in the Congress, that you see on Fox, and that you see on some of the other cable stations. But enough about that. Going to the pardons, and you talk about, you mentioned briefly about Trump paying off his 2 mistresses with his own money, where that could be a campaign violation. Completely wrong. He shouldn't be impeached for that. If he should, then Ted Kennedy should have been impeached for leaving the scene of an accident causing the death of Mary Jo Kopechne, and Ted Kennedy and the senator from Vermont, Leahy, who was still a senator, going to Russia in '84 and telling the Russian prime minister to hold on after the election so they can do something with the Russians, as opposed to Reagan being in power where they can't do it. I mean, that was treason. In regard to I'll finish up. I know you got other people.
You're good.
In regard to Flynn, the day after he's convicted, Trump should pardon him. Manafort, I would say the day after he gets reelected. If you remember, I don't know if I have empirical knowledge of it. Clinton pardoned Frank Rich, who owed hundreds of millions of dollars to IRS while he was stooping his beautiful wife, and Frank Rich was out of the country after he made hundreds of thousands of donations to the Clinton reelection campaign. Clinton pardoned 15 murderers from Puerto Rican murderers in New York City when Hillary was going to run for the Senate. Obama pardoned hundreds and hundreds of drug dealers who pleaded down counts, and only excuse was they didn't do anything dangerous. And W. Bush, he wouldn't even pardon Scooter Libby, who didn't even do anything regarding Valerie Plame.
All right, so look, there's a lot to chew on there. Obviously, I can't respond to everything that you said, given the time shortage we have, JD.
Correct,
but here's the one thing I'll say. I'll say one thing, JD. Like, I don't care if Barack Obama or Bill Clinton are serial murderers. Okay, that has nothing to do with what Paul Manafort's accused of. That has nothing to do with Michael Flynn. It doesn't.
It's equal justice for what they did and what Trump's doing.
But we live in the. But you understand. We live in the real world, JD. We're in the real world. We know. We know that life is not fair. That's not how. That's not how this country runs.
When you commit treason.
I'm not. You're making it try. You're trying to portray it as if I'm trying to make excuses for Obama or Clinton. I'm not.
I agree with you. You're not.
Yes, but I'm just trying to point out that, like, you bring up all these instances that obviously I'm not going to be able to single-handedly for the next 2.5, 3 hours refute every single one of them. But I'm just trying to say that, look, two wrongs don't make a right. Okay, it's a point. It's a very simple point that a lot of us here, a lot of us Americans try to make when it comes to if there's stuff that's being done wrong in the Trump administration, then people should be held accountable for it. I don't know if it's you can say crimes, you can say.
Don't you think Mueller has probably run into crimes on the Clinton Foundation, on Clinton's emails? Just by accident?
I would say yes. Off the top of my head, JD, I would say yes. But it's not something we can litigate right now. But I mean, if you're trying to say that there's just complete hypocrisy in regards to Robert Mueller when it comes to Democrats and Republicans, I would say that's ridiculous. Robert Mueller, I believe he's a lifetime Republican. Am I wrong? I mean,
Robert Mueller has a few skeletons in his own closet that he's probably covering up during this investigation.
Yes, but what we're talking about is partisan politics influence. You're talking about law enforcement people making decisions based on their politics, and I just don't think that's something that's.
If you're Republican or Democrat.
What's that again?
I said when you're a crook, it doesn't matter when you're.
Absolutely, I 100% agree. I 100% agree. So if and that's why I've said when there's been Democrats found guilty of stuff, I'm look, I'm not a sworn on Democrat. I'm someone who.
Look at our own backyard. What's happening in Nevada?
Yes.
With all the Democrats, there's a half a dozen crooks, and one guy, he stole $123,000 from his campaign. He was assessed a $100 payment a month. The guy's 70 years old. He'd have to be lived about 179 to pay it off. And after a year, he stopped paying it. This was a Democrat assemblyman.
Yes.
And, you wonder who's behind the deals. Who made that deal? $100 a month for the rest of his life. He wouldn't pay it off.
But the point I'm making is that myself, I speak for myself. I don't speak for all Democrats or all liberal, hardcore left liberals or whatever. I speak for myself. If there is wrongdoing that's found and you're charged with it and it's justified, I don't care if you're a Democrat, Republican, whatever. You should pay the price. You should face the penalty. Okay, that's my take. So to your credit, yes.
I don't know what you do for a living. I'm retired. I have a lot more time to research, like Brian does, and I have a lot more time to listen and read what's going on that the American people don't know, and you don't know, and Brian doesn't know, because you got lives. I don't. I'm retired, so I can do these things. And if the people in this town and in this country knew half of the shenanigans that I know and Brian knows that have been going on in this country, I think we'd all go to Canada.
Hey, JD, we appreciate the phone call. You got some others got to get to, but
thanks for the time.
Thanks for chiming in. Always coming strong, JD. 702-257-5396 is the phone number. We're talking a little presidential politics, a little Washington D.C. here on the Vegas Take. Let's talk to Will. Will, thanks very much for the call. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Now, are you related to Steve Wynn, first of all?
I am not. No, I am not. I have we have the same last name, but I spell it just a tad differently, Will. I go with the I instead of the Y, which, to be quite honest with you, as of right now, it's a great thing. Now, I have to admit, when I moved to Vegas back in 2004, it was outstanding to be associated with Steve Wynn. But
I think you'd walk in the room, the ears would go up, the nose into the wind, and it'd all be in the eyes in your direction.
Yeah, but you know the deal, Will. Right now, not exactly a great thing to have the name association with Steve. But
well, certainly still commands respect in my perspective. But I'm not sure because I don't.
But you understand what I'm saying. You understand that all the recent news that have come out regarding Steve and the improprieties and stuff that's going on. So.
Oh no, I haven't heard about that.
Yeah. So he's let's put it this way. He's in a little bit of hot water. Let's kind of put it that way. But Will, what do you think? What do you think about this? About you think that not Paul Manafort and Michael Flynn and Michael Cohen? Do you think that pardons are heading their way, or do you think that the president's going to go a different direction?
Well, I can't read his mind. I think I'm looking at a bigger overlay. I'm not looking at that close myself. Let me put it this way: everything you do has a price to pay.
Yep.
You will pay that price before, during, or after, but you will pay. And some of these people, like many of us, if you look at our past, we've all done things that are just scurrilous, just terrible, just damn near demonic, okay? But we live with those things. We try to compensate. But and some people manage to game the system at a bigger level than a little level. And all of a sudden something comes up and they're hunting these people after Trump, which I don't think is really Trump. I think they're trying to cover up the uranium. I think they'd gotten so corrupted that they had to get a distraction going, and the distraction is the perfect storm. You couldn't ask for a better distraction, and boy, they're just piling it on. And I think, well, anyway, I don't know if that answered your question or not. I'm concerned, Mr. Wynn, that we're in a cultural. Let's see, a cultural. How can I put this? Not conflict. What is it when you have a? Anyway, are you concerned that there's like something could be on the horizon, like a civil war or something like that? Is that what you're trying to think of? Yes, I am. We're in a class of cultures. There's the school districts, which are the foundation of all of this public employee union stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They got the school districts, the institution, actually, the universities too. They've now commingled their operations, but you've got the educational institution, which used to be an institution, now it's an industry. You got the public employees union, you got the entitlement group, and the media is the new player, the likes of which even traditional older men like myself, we've never seen this before. I think we're all just kind of paralyzed in trying to assess what's going on before we take any action. And in the meantime, if we're not careful, we're going to be in a conflict as opposed to opposing. I can't find the right word there.
Yeah. Well, I would argue this. Will, I would argue this, and thanks for the phone call, by the way. Appreciate it. I would argue that.
Can I get as much time as JD?
Well, yeah. Well, no. I just want to respond to what you're saying about this, about the possibility of a civil war. I don't think we're there yet. I don't think I don't think we're at a crisis yet where there would be physical conflict or something along those lines. And Will, I'm sorry we have to let you go because we have other phone calls I got to get to. Let me respond. And the reason I say that is this. I live here in Las Vegas, okay? Myself, I'm single. I don't have any kids. I do have nieces and nephews. I think that, look, there is discourse when it comes to politics these days. We get heated, and it has been a remarkable 2 to 3 to 4 years, without question. There are family members that are at odds when it comes to politics, right? And I'm specifically talking about the Trump administration because there's parts of my family who are Trump supporters. And there are other parts that are hardcore never Trumpers. So there is that discourse. There is that dialogue. There is that conflict among family members. I don't think it extends to a place where we actually have people in the streets, squaring off. I don't think it becomes, where we have a breakdown in society, where we have, all and out melees and those types of things. Because I think it already would have happened. I think that we were already at a point where the horse is out of the barn, as far as conflict among American citizens. And I think this is I have to be honest with you. I think this is as bad as it gets. So I think that we're only going to be able to improve from here, because circumstances are going to change. Either the president's going to get reelected or he's not. In which case, I think things will change drastically. 702-257-5396 is the phone number. Brian joins us now here on the phone lines on the Vegas Tape. Brian, thanks very much for giving us a call. How are you?
I'm doing well, Chris, and I have to commend your demeanor tonight.
Yeah, well, when you're flying solo, Brian, and you get the chance to kind of engage with everybody, it changes things up a little bit. I can't just just tunnel vision in on maybe one topic that I want to address when I'm with Brian and JD, and so I think it kind of changes things up a little bit.
I'm beginning to think that Mr. Shapiro might be a bad influence on you after hearing you tonight.
Well, yeah. Well, no. See, look,
you guys just get each other going until your hair's on fire and his bald head is.
Well, what's funny, Brian, is that he takes a different approach than I take. He's not afraid, and look, he's not going to be upset with me for saying this because he knows me. I call it like it is. He's not afraid to drop names on people. When he's in a conversation, things get heated. Names like idiot and moron are not afraid to come out of his mouth. Me, I'm not really going to go down that road. I try to take more of a roundabout approach, I guess, and maybe just a little bit different. But it doesn't dampen my passion when it comes to these topics.
Sure.
It's just a matter of just a kind of a different approach.
Quick question for
Yes.
you. You mentioned that you said something about seeing Lynn Wood on Mark Levin's show.
Yes, I watched that last night. See, that's what you might be surprised by, is that some people would think, oh, all I do is sit down in front of CNN and watch me some Chris Cuomo and Don Lemon, and then I flip over to see Rachel Maddow. Not the case. Like I'm someone who likes to bounce around, and I like to watch Fox News because I like to see what the opinion is and what the perspective is, of hosts on other channels. And so, and obviously because he has a show here on this station, I occasionally will turn on if I'm home on a Sunday night and get a chance to check out that show. And so we saw Lynn Wood on there, of course, the attorney that's representing Mr. Salmon, the young man, of course, that is involved in the controversy in Washington D.C. with the Native American man. I can believe that was banging the drum, and there's the lawsuits that are both pending and are in place with respect to, of course, what the Washington Post and the libel suit basically is what it is. And
Did you hear the final statement by Mr. Wood?
I don't recall it right off the top of my head. What did he say?
What he said was, this was his concluding statement. He said, "No punches were thrown, no blood was drawn, nobody pushed each other around.
Mm-hmm.
It was a bunch of different circumstances. It was totally 180 degrees off of what actually happened. Was what made it onto CNN, in the Washington Post, ABC, NBC, CBS, and all of the other media outlets totally misrepresented what happened because they didn't take the time to find out what had really happened. It took me all of 20 minutes to watch the video before, during, and after what transpired. And I called Brian the next day and let him know about that. Now, what he said was this. He says, if they can't be trusted on something as simple and inconsequential as this, what about when something major happens? How can we trust these reporters and these news outlets that got this so very wrong, just like they did Ferguson, just like they did the Trayvon Martin thing? Most people don't remember the officer in the Ferguson case with the gentle giant, Michael Brown.
Yes.
His name was Darren Wilson. He had to leave the state with his family, and he did nothing wrong.
Mm-hmm.
He was found by a grand jury he fulfilled his job just the way he said he did. what a police officer is expected to do. He defended his own life after being attacked by this guy that outweighed him by 100 pounds. And so...
So Brian, are you saying that they are fake news? That you're saying CNN and MSNBC?
I'm not saying fake. What I'm saying is, and this is what he said last night, they have an agenda.
Okay.
They have a narrative, and they're lazy. They're biased and they're lazy. And he said himself, "I've never seen it this bad."
And it's a fair point. Look, I can take that. I can understand it. But this, you know, what gets to me though, Brian, is this constant, just we just want just because if it's something that is negative that's said about the Trump administration, right, or something that comes out where it's disparaging to Donald Trump, so many of Trump's supporters want to come out and say, that's just the fake news, doing what the fake news does, and they have this image in their mind that everybody has no credibility whatsoever in the mainstream media, and they just want to jumble together all the networks, whether it's CNN, MSNBC, all these networks, obviously all the major networks, CBS, NBC, ABC, and say, you can't trust, you can't believe what's coming out of those camps. Yet you can turn over to Fox News and say, absolutely, that's the gospel. Like what they're saying is 100% true. And Brian, thanks for the phone call. By the way, we got to jump to a break real quick. I really appreciate it. There's this great video out there. I don't know, it's on YouTube. It's a hypocrisy video, and basically what it does, it focuses on all the stuff that Obama did, and all the stuff that President Trump has done with respect to dictators, right? And about whether or not they're kowtowing to him, or whether or not they're trying to be friends with them. And it was and the video is hilarious because it cuts through all. It's not just Fox News, it's MSNBC. So there's other networks where there are Trump supporters on, Republicans on, people like Michelle Malkin and others who come on and just blasted Obama whenever he wanted to engage with either Kim Jong-un or Vladimir Putin or the Saudis or whoever, Iran, whatever, and they would just hammer him. But when it came to Donald Trump and all the stuff that has recently happened with Kim Jong-un and obviously Vladimir Putin and the Saudi Arabian prince, it was all glowing rapport as to how he handled it, and so it was hypocrisy. So I think there's that element to it too that kind of makes people kind of wary of what's going on. It is the Vegas Take coming your way on a Monday. We'll take our final break, and then on the other side, we'll be joined by Mike Miller, former NBA player, also aspiring coach, and we'll talk some March Madness with him as well, too. He's a former Florida Gator. As we get a chance to chime in with him, I'm Chris Wynn, in for Brian Shapiro and JD on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDWN.